Right, now having just seen leadership in action, we pause to reflect. This next session, we explore how leadership connects people, systems, and long-term change. Please welcome Martin Kasper, who brings decades of experience in advancing education, child rights, and livelihood opportunities for disadvantaged children and youth across South and Southeast Asia.
To guide this conversation, please welcome Aradhana Dalmia, who brings a sharp system lens and deep on-ground experience in education and philanthropy. She will be moderating this session and taking the dialogue forward. Over to you, ma'am.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, please.
Thank you so much. So just a warning, I think after those inspirational videos and awards, I hope you can still stay up and watch our session and hear us. We promise to be not too boring after all of those really, really inspirational videos, which really genuinely brought tears to my eyes. So Martin, welcome to Bangalore, welcome to InvokED, and I think all of us are very happy that you've joined us here today. We saw in the awards stories of how leadership exists everywhere, even in the remotest villages, in the smallest setting. And this session is going to sort of take us a little bit away from the local to the global and to the systems perspective, where I want to ask you, coming in from heading a global organization, you know, what is it that you think is required today at a global systems level in terms of leadership to really bring about educational transformation in countries like India? And how can we all partner together and collaborate to achieve this?
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for your warm words of introduction. I think after these great, inspiring hero stories, I don't know if we are right on this stage today. And I know for certain that these are just 3 out of 1,000 applications. And I've met tens of thousands of people out there in the field that struggle every day to deliver similar results. And mingling with many of you yesterday at dinner, I know there are many more heroes in the room here, so I feel a little ashamed sitting here and talking about transformation and change, because each one of you has a part and a building block for that. But what I think these wonderful examples show us, it's not about bricks and mortar, it's not about individuals, it's about inspirational activities that connect communities, that involve all stakeholders, that make change happen in small steps. So there are all the big concepts, and all the books have been written, and there are all these conferences on UN level. But what really brings about change on the ground level are the people when they connect with the communities, the parents, the teachers, and those who help them succeed.
Thank you, Martin. A question about how you yourself started your journey in impact. So, as a leader of a global business organization to a leader in the space of impact, do you see any difference between the two, and how have you sort of straddled this journey?
You see, I've been fortunate in being able to pursue a really wonderful education in my home country, Germany, and abroad, and to find mentors who helped me grow and develop, and that resulted in a wonderful industrial career. But if you work in industry, you have lots of resources. You have a good income, you have the best communication technologies, you're allowed to travel, you can meet whom you want. And when you move to this social development world, it's a different world in that respect. You have to make ends meet with very little resources. You have to improvise, and you have to be very patient in many cases before you see the change happen that you want to see develop. And so what has changed my leadership style is I've become more patient. I'm still a pretty impatient person, but I know change can happen even in situations where resources face impediments, hurdles, challenges.
Thank you. So just building on that a little bit, how do you define success in the impact space versus success in business? Do you see that there are different parameters, or do you think that when we talk about success in impact, we need to have more stringent parameters like we do in the business world? And also, you are big about this idea of cooperation, and cooperation not just at the local level, like we saw in some of our videos, but at a global level. So can you explain to us your thoughts on why this cooperation is necessary?
See, in business, it's about increasing your income. It's about being promoted to the next level. It's about visibility outside. And in our world here, that is different. We have seen these examples in the movies, and they all showed leadership and initiative and activity. But what made them successful was that they were able to inspire others to also become active. We can change the world if we get all stakeholders involved. When we want to change schools, we need to start with the parents. We saw this in the movies also. When we want to change schools, we need to start from these dismal situations frequently, but we can change them. And the global network can accelerate these processes. All the answers are there, all the methods are there, all the materials are there. There's lots of money around the world. And it's our task and challenge to bring all of that onto the table to bring about change.
And do you have any ideas on how we can bring this cooperation together at a global level? Of course, there are many agencies under the United Nations, etc., that are always making this effort. But having been in this space for so many decades, what do you think is missing to make this global cooperation more vibrant and more successful in delivering results on the ground?
We have already heard this morning that fragmentation is impeding progress. And I'm a firm believer of technology. We have heard that artificial intelligence can help us succeed. And I firmly believe that this is the age where we can all collaborate across borders, where we can learn from the examples of others wherever we are, where we can free the teachers from administrative work and boring teaching to focusing on the individuals in the classroom. So this is the time where we should use technology to unite the networks and well-minded people around the world to finally solve this problem of quality education for all. I'm so frustrated that over the last 25 years, we have made little progress if you look at the worldwide situation. And that is not because there are not so many energized, dedicated, skillful people. And it's not because the methodologies are not there. It's because there is fragmentation and individualism, and we need to change that rapidly.
Thank you for bringing that up, actually. We've been supporting Mantra's work in the state of Uttar Pradesh for a few years now. And I think whenever we visit the state, one of the most frustrating things to see on the ground is just how much administrative work the teachers are supposed to do every year. And it takes away so much precious teaching time from them. So it's my humble request to all government representatives here today that please give it some deep thought, then how can we reduce this burden on our teachers? Because they should just be spending much more time in the classroom than doing government work. So it's just a humble request to please think about it at least. So thank you for bringing it up. Um, Moving on, not only have you built a large social impact network and you've supported a lot of programs in northeastern India in particular, you've also managed to build a vast network of volunteers. And you mentioned earlier this morning in our chat that you try to rope in a lot of young people to volunteer their time to do simple things, yet highly impactful things for your organization. So could you elaborate a little bit more on why that's necessary? And, at Shikshagra, where this is a movement to bring young organizations together, how can we spread this message further in India?
Each one of you in the room has a special talent. Everyone out there in every company, in every government office, in every retail situation has special talents. And while not all can work full-time in the development and social work, I think every one of you, every one of us, and everyone out there can be inspired to donate 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a week to contribute to the common good. And that is the philosophy with which we grew our organization. We spend a very, very small percentage of our income on the operations in Germany. And that is because we have won over the hearts and minds of people that they donate their skills, their talent, their expertise, their knowledge, their insight, just a few hours every week for our progress. We have a marketing agency that refuses to sell me bills, although they produce the most wonderful coffee table books and brochures and annual reports. We have an entrepreneur that has invited us to share his office as long as he doesn't need that office space himself in his growth curve. And we have this wonderful office free of charge. Whenever we start events like this one or smaller ones, we find volunteers in our community, young and old, predominantly female, who really make this a success. And it still needs to be professional. We still need to have reliability. We need to have commitment, so there is no excuse for a lack of quality. But volunteers can bring a power onto the table and into a movement which is unlimited. There is no limit of that resource.
Thank you, Martin. Just going a little bit deeper into the idea of new leadership and 21st century leadership. At the recently concluded conference in Davos by the WEF, there was a remarkable speech by the Canadian Prime Minister who was challenging the current global order and our inability to stand up to what is going on in the world in terms of political leadership. So I think for a lot of us young people, that was very inspirational that finally there was a statesman who was, speaking plain truth. So what do you think, looking at the world today, is the kind of leadership we need in the 21st century to work on the real problems of the world and, get away from a lot of the political dialogue that exists to address these real world problems? Where are these leaders emerging from, and what are the qualities do you think they require?
Well, we see a world where many just pursue their own benefit. We increasingly see examples where countries again start to shield themselves off and only focus on their internal problems, which is justified, but it's not the solution. We can only solve the problems of this world if we collaborate. And I want to encourage all of you, I want to encourage the silent majority to not stop interacting on a global scale. Social media, technology, the available communication channels make it so much easier than decades ago. And we need to hear all voices. We need to bring all opinions onto the table. And we need to identify the best solutions and ideas around the world to solve our challenges for the next generation. We know that Gen Z and those even younger, that they are frustrated about the lack of change and the lack of opportunities, and we are here to change that now.
Thank you. And in your journey, having worked in India for so many years in this space, can you share a couple of stories of leadership that you've seen on the ground in the Northeast or any other region?
The story I want to share is about a little girl. She lived in a village that looked very similar to the villages we have seen in the movies. She had lost her father, and there were too many siblings in her family. And she, being the oldest daughter, had to take care of them because her mother was over-leveraged, taking care of the family alone. But this girl still dedicated time and energy, partially when her sisters and brothers had already gone to bed, to learn. And she inspired the neighbors' daughters to join them. And while she could not attend school regularly, she completed her matric exam and later went to college and is now a big inspiration for many of the other girls in that village and beyond. That is real leadership.
Thank you so much. I think all of us working in different states across the country can come up with so many stories of such local level leadership and even leadership by people in the education system. So maybe next year Shikshagra can compile an even larger volume of their coffee table book where they can include a lot of these stories. Martin, so just going into the final segment, we have a lot of leaders here of social organizations, from government, from philanthropies. What can you say to them that when they are feeling a little down and out, a little beat up about how slow sometimes the change is, or if they see setbacks in the work that they do, what should be their North Star and where should they get inspiration from?
Let me tell you briefly the story of my grandfather in a few sentences. He was born in 1894 and he had a tough life, surviving 2 world wars, losing his wife early, having to raise a big family of kids with very little resources, being really impoverished by the economic developments in Germany, and all that change that it was happening. But he never lost his optimism. He was willing to adjust to whatever challenge he faced with a can-do attitude. He was charming in winning over others to help him, and he was always ready to help others. So I want to encourage you that you never give up. I want to tell to you, stopping being depressive, resigning is not an option. Whatever hardships you face, and we all face hardships, but I would tell you about my school days and our country, there are lots of hardships there. It's frequently not easy, and I know each of you is facing hardships and disasters and sorrow and pain in your lives. Don't get bogged down with this. Stay entrepreneurial, agile, inventive. Grab the opportunities, then change will happen.
Wow, thank you for those words. Yes, soaking it in, because I think a lot of us are sometimes very hard on ourselves too and beat ourselves up for, not being able to do something. But these are really, really great words of wisdom. You had also shared something with me in the morning that, when in India you see people worry about things like foundation literacy and numeracy, and we assume that this is our problem and it's our problem only. You shared that, trust me, this is a problem in every country. Even in a country like Germany, we still struggle with achieving universal foundation literacy and numeracy. So can you share how you feel that this kind of understanding across countries, across regions is essential, and then what kind of sharing that can unleash?
We are now supporting 200,000 children in Northeast India through various partners, and some of them are here, and I'm very thankful for their team's dedicated local effort. But we see our role much broader than just bringing funds to the table. Money is important, but what I think is more important is motivation. What is essential is inspiration. What is frequently required is encouragement. You need to have friends who make you through these valleys of despair. And you need to have people who help you find a good solution if you have run against an obstacle. And this international solidarity is much more important, I think, than bringing big budgets.
Thank you so much, Martin. Can we have a huge round of applause for Martin Kasper?
So, thank you very much. This is my 50th trip to India in the recent years, and I'm happy to come back, and I'm looking forward to the day when I come only as a friend and not as a benefactor.
Thank you so much, Martin.